Police officers across the country are being told to limit the number of traffic stops they're doing for minor infractions like a busted taillight or expired tags. Now, keep in mind that not only is this the way these infractions are enforced, but this is often the way illegal weapons are taken off the streets or wanted criminals are found during traffic stops. Reform advocates say traffic stops disproportionately target people of color and can quickly escalate into violence. The death of Patrick Leoya in Grand Rapids, Michigan, earlier this month has escalated the call. The 26-year-old was shot during a struggle with a police officer after he was pulled over for a license plate violation. The investigation into his death is ongoing. Los Angeles just became the largest city to ban so-called pretextual traffic stops. If they do stop someone for a minor violation, officers now have to speak into their body-worn cameras and explain why they feel the stop was necessary to investigate a more serious crime. Philadelphia also just put in place a ban on low-level traffic stops by officers. In Virginia, now is a statewide law limiting those types of stops. Similar moves are planned or have already been taken in Seattle, Berkeley, California, Lansing, Michigan, Brooklyn Center, Minnesota. That's where Officer Kim Potter shot and killed Dante Wright after mistaking her handgun for her taser during a stop last year. At the end of last year, Pittsburgh passed its own ban. We're going to speak to the sponsor of that legislation in just a moment. Police unions, including those in L.A. and Philly, have come out against the new measures, saying they jeopardize public safety and prevent rank-and-file officers from doing their jobs, keeping violent criminals off the street. The Philadelphia Police Union is currently suing to block the city's ban, calling it irresponsible and, quote, absolute insanity that would promote unsafe driving because drivers know they won't face any consequences. Now, my take on this. I tend to side with the police unions here. When more and more people who are pulled over resist the officers, and that leads to problems, why should that lead us to say, well, then we need to stop doing it instead of saying they need to stop resisting? Now, I've said it before. We need to hold the bad cops responsible. When a cop crosses the line, there have to be consequences. And police departments should be evaluating the racial breakdown of people pulled over and compare that to broader demographics of crimes in the area they patrol. But these outright bans feel counterproductive to me. Here to tell me what I'm getting wrong is Pittsburgh City Councilman Reverend Ricky Burgess, who sponsored his city's legislation against conducting minor stops. We'll talk to him first, and then we'll be joined by retired LAPD detective Moses Castillo for another perspective. We don't do the yelling debates on this show. Reverend, thank you for coming on the show. Appreciate it. Let me start with you. What am I getting wrong? And tell us why you proposed this ban.
First of all, thank you for having me on the show. Second of all, in Pittsburgh, Black people are disproportionately affected by these stops, these secondary stops. These are not for speeding or anything that's at public safety related, but things such as an expired registration, less than 60 days old, a single burnt out headlight, having your temporary registration in the wrong place. We ban these secondary stops. These primary violations can still be stopped. What we found in Pittsburgh is that Black men were 3 times more likely to be stopped. And Black people, although we make up only 22% of the population, made up close to 50% of the stops. More alarming, of these stops, only less than 5% of them ever became the vehicle for more serious arrests. So they were being targeted, they were being stopped. And as you know, across the country, the New York Times reported that over the last 5 years, over 400 people have been stopped by the police and killed. And so the traffic stop should not be a reason for someone to lose their life. Lastly, the best way to improve public safety is to improve community confidence. And so when you target Black people in Black communities with this profiling attempts by police, you do the opposite. You create a chilling effect where the citizens feel that they're being targeted and they don't participate as they need to with community policing.
Well, I think you're absolutely right about the final point. If there's a sense of targeting and the numbers are backing it up, then there has to be a change, right, in the way that they go about doing it. But why does the solution have to be an all-out ban? Why can't the solution be trying to figure out in what particular areas, in particular, have there been disproportionate stops of people of color? In those particular areas, target it, fix it, as opposed to saying, let's just stop these pullovers altogether, even in an area like Pittsburgh, which has seen such increased crime?
Well, again, these second violations have a disastrous purpose. One, it breaks the community's confidence in police. And then second of all, it has the risk of escalating. No person should be shot because their registration is less than 60 days to be renewed.
But that's not why they get shot, right? I mean, they get shot because they resist. I'm not saying it, therefore, it makes it okay. But I'm saying that it's not that
if they hadn't been stopped for these ticky-tack offenses, there would be no violence that occur. And so we also know that they also do these things primarily in high-risk communities of color. And so it has this effect, this chilling effect. I have been the author of not just this, but probably a score of police reform legislation, all designed to do one simple thing, to increase community confidence in police so that there is a partnership. There is not enough police to stop crime. We have to have a community partnership working together to reduce crime, especially at these high-risk neighborhoods, these neighborhoods that have been disinvested in for decades.
But let me just ask you one follow-up on that, which is, isn't there something in between the ban, right? Isn't there some way, a middle ground, rather than saying we need to ban these things outright altogether? Because you do know that there is definitely a benefit to these as well, right? You're saying that the cost outweighs the benefit. I hear you on that. But there is no doubt there is a benefit from these. It's able to take weapons, illegal weapons off the street. People who are wanted on outstanding warrants get found, et cetera. Now, I get your argument, but why not try and figure out a balance?
Well, I am a black man. I have three grown black sons. I have a fear of their encounter with police. I have been stopped not knowing who I am, and I'm also afraid. If more of these stops ended up with serious crime violations, if more than 5% of them ended with arrest, I would be in your position. Since so few of these stops, these pretextual stops, end in arrest or any other violation, I think the consequences of the fear of the black community and creates this sort of a distrust and lack of cooperation with police, it by far exceeds its effectiveness. Because, you know, unless you're an African-American male, you really don't know the trauma that occurs when you're stopped by a member of the police force. You think that at any moment you can lose your life simply because of the encounter. The encounter becomes more dangerous than the reason for the stop. And that should not happen in this country.
Reverend, you get the final word. Thank you very much for taking the time to come on the program, have this discussion. I appreciate it. Let me bring in Detective Castillo now. Now, you have a different view of this. I don't like doing this sort of yelling debates, but let me allow you to respond to some of what the Reverend said there.
Well, thanks, Dan. Thanks for the opportunity. First of all, I think it demonizes the police officers instead of saying, hey, good job, officer. You did a great traffic stop. It resulted in the removal of these dangerous drugs like fentanyl and guns. And instead, what we're doing is let's ban them all together. It sends the wrong message because now banning them, these officers are not going to be able to do their job to protect and serve, and these criminals are going to get away with it. And ultimately, the ones that suffer these consequences are our local communities, our residents, who then become victims of these violent crimes.
So what do you make of the argument the Reverend was just making about the community support for police? His point is that if you do these less, there'll be more trust in police and therefore better potential community relations and more assistance from the community in trying to solve crimes.
One of the things that the Los Angeles Police Department is very proud of doing is they actually have citizen academies where it allows members of the community participate in a 6 or 7 week program to get to know the ins and outs of police work. They meet detectives, they meet the bomb squad, they meet sex crimes detectives, they meet juvenile procedure school, you name it. Those are the things that build relationships, build trust. And in doing so, we work together, not against each other. So I'm all for that. But ultimately, it sends the wrong message to the police officer saying, you know what, from now on, we're just going to stop doing this because it's not worth it. But let me tell you something. Some of the officers are actually doing that already. You know what? They're saying, you know what? It's not worth it. I'm not going to pull over anybody anymore for some minor infraction because I'm afraid of losing my job. I'm afraid of going to prison, and it's not worth it anymore.
Let me ask you, what do you make of the argument that I've heard some suggest, which is that traffic stops are dangerous for police? We know that. That's a fact, is that traffic stops can be very dangerous for police. And as a result, that police should support the idea of doing less of them. What do you make of that?
Again, it sends the wrong message. It's going to make officers second guess themselves. And with LAPD policy, where they want them to speak into the body-worn camera, I'm concerned about that because they're supposed to be focusing on what's in front of them, what's ahead, watching the hands, watching the behavior. And instead, they have to be worried about articulating facts into their body-worn camera. I think it sends the wrong message. It should be, you know what, we got your back. We're here to support you. As long as your heart's in the right place and you follow the law, everything should be okay.
But you agree with me, don't you, that if there is clear evidence where that people of color are being disproportionately, based on crimes in the area, and based on the demographics of the area, et cetera, being pulled over, that should be addressed. But it doesn't necessarily have to mean that you say, let's ban these things altogether.
Absolutely. Any police officer that commits any violation of department policy or criminal law, they should be held accountable. And ultimately, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for officers to report officers who are doing just that. If they're performing any misconduct, they need to be reported. Anybody that covers it up needs to also be responsible for their actions as well.
Good point. And I think it's really important to hear from someone like you, retired LAPD, very pro-police, that you support the idea of calling it out when you see misconduct. I think that people would be shocked at how many cops feel that way, which is great. We need to do that because it'll lead more people to have faith in the cops. Retired LAPD Detective Moses Castillo. Go. You want a quick final thought on that?
Yes, it's a matter of time for the community to really get behind their officers and tell their elected officials to knock off this nonsense and let the police officers do their job.
Moses Castillo, thank you for coming on the program. Appreciate it. Thank you for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.